This week on TGC News, story time with guns, the Strike 2 from 5.56 Tactical, and a palm pistol that can also be a rifle? The RE Factor Tactical Operator Band is the ultimate in discreet survival tools. Offered in a variety of colors, the Operator Band houses almost 10 different survival implements to get you operating operationally in no time. Get 10% off your entire order at refactortactical.com using the code TGC10. Welcome back. My name is John Patton, and before we get into the show, I just want to say thank you to everyone that came to see me this weekend at the Outdoor Show. I had a lot of fun chatting with you guys and, just hanging out. That was awesome to meet all of you. And, of course, a huge thank you to those of you that bought the TGC Swag Pack. All 100 of those packs are now sold out, which is freaking incredible, so thank you all for the support, and of course there will be more swag coming soon. Now, let's get into some news. This week's first story is exactly that, a story that happened just the other day. I've never actually told a story like this on TGC News, but I wanted to kind of switch gears and talk about a real-world situation that got out of hand for local police here in Pennsylvania. It involves a personal friend of mine using his gun right outside his home one morning when kids were getting ready to go to school. Here's his story. I heard a lot of commotion, teens laughing, yelling, and police sirens and stuff like that, all right in front of our home. I see an officer grabbing two teens in either hand. Both teens are trying to pull themselves away from the officer, and a struggle ensued. In a matter of seconds, 3 to 4 other teens overpowered the officer and were pushing him against a parked SUV. I didn't see a specific person go for the officer's gun as there was a lot of commotion, but hands were definitely present in the area of the gun. As they jumped on the officer, I began yelling at the teens to get off of him. I didn't know what to do. I played out every scenario I can think of in my head. Do I run over and try to pull the kids off? There's about 30 kids watching this, so I decided that's probably not a good idea. I then thought, do I pull my gun out? No, they're kids, and, then again, they're not kids if they're attacking a cop. Do I call the cops again? Is there enough time? They could take his gun any second, and this could get even uglier real fast. So I decided my best option was to pull out my handgun and help the officer. Mind you, all the thoughts I had were in an instant. This happened immediately. I never placed my finger on the trigger. I aimed to the left and to the ground of those scumbags. I yelled again as loud as I could to get away from the officer. It took one kid to see my gun to tell the others, and then they all ran with the exception of 2. The same 2 that caused all this crap. The officer had one in each hand holding them against the SUV. The officer looked at me and then I started to worry. Did he think I was a bad guy? I told him I was there to help, and he instantly seemed at ease and put his attention back on the kids. I thought it was over until a 90-pound teen started to approach me with a handful of kids behind him. He was yelling at me and had zero fear in his eyes. I remember the anger I could see right there in his eyes. Again, I thought, what do I do? I turned my body and gun in his direction, but again pointed downward. He wasn't afraid and kept moving to me. He didn't flinch until he heard the other officers arrive on the scene. I put my arms up in the air at this point with my weapon pointing up, and I don't think they even noticed me. They were helping their fellow officer subdue the 2 teens that started this crap, and I eventually holstered my weapon. That was the scariest thing that I could have ever witnessed. I was shaken up after the incident, and once the adrenaline wore off, it was just crazy. We hear a lot in the 2A world that we don't ever want to use our weapons. Well, let me tell you that you don't ever want to have to point it at another human being, let alone fire it. I have even more respect for officers now and the split-second decisions that they have to make. I'm just glad no one was hurt besides the officer's broken finger. And I'm telling you this not for praise. I want this to remain anonymous, so let's keep it that way. I'm telling you this because I want people to know that guns are helpful tools and that officers sometimes need a helping hand. Now, that was the story I was told by this person, my friend, that this happened to. I wanted to read it to you guys just like he sent it to me so you could kind of get a feel for how intense that got. I told you that because we need to remember that you don't get to pick when you have to use your gun, and you don't have to be an operator or a cop to do the right thing. This person, my buddy, was forced to make some hard decisions and luckily made the right ones. Let's not Monday morning quarterback the situation. Instead, I want you guys to share in the comments times when you either thought you were going to need your gun or even actually had to unholster your gun. Put your stories below so that others can see it, and hopefully we can start a great discussion around paying attention and doing the right thing. And in hilariously misguided news, I'm sure all of you at some point have seen a palm pistol somewhere on the internet. The concept has been around for an extremely long time and honestly never really caught on to be something significant. The basic idea is that you have a gun in the palm of your hand and you squeeze, and that is how you fire the gun. Some sort of mechanism you close with your hand. As far as I knew, the concept was dead. Until Constitution Arms decided to resurrect the idea, overcomplicate it, and then, well, let's just wait on that other part. This new palm pistol chambered in .38 Special has 2 grip safeties on either side of the 2.5-inch barrel and features not 1, but 2 triggers on either point of the football shape of the gun. To load it, you simply break the action open to one side, shove a round in, and then close it. It's fairly simple. You can also buy some interesting accessories for this thing, like a barrel extension or a piece of Picatinny rail for small lasers, or even this thing they're calling a strike bezel, which looks like some standoff devices that I've seen on ARs and suppressors. All in all, I think the concept is kind of interesting. And I mean, you guys know that I love seeing people think outside the box. But let me tell you why this new palm pistol is a freaking catastrophic fail. First off, the 2.5-inch barrel includes the round and chamber. A .38 Special cartridge is just over 1.5 inches long, so that means that there is less than 1 inch of rifling. And you're saying, well, John, it's a palm pistol. It's not a competition gun. It's not really meant for accuracy. I agree, but that's like me telling you that I dropped off your car with gas in it and including the gas in the lines in my assessment of whether that thing could go anywhere or not. Beyond that, though, the thing that made me cringe when I talked to the owner of the company at the recent outdoor show is the price. The MSRP on the palm pistol itself is $1,350. I'm not kidding. This is real. $1,350 for a single shot palm pistol. Oh, and on top of that, all those accessories I mentioned are an additional $100 each. Tiny little Picatinny rail sections for $100 each. What? Yeah. Then on display at the show was also a rifle version of this thing. Yeah, it had an AR-style stock and handguard and had the palm pistol just kind of wedged there in the middle. Who in the bloody hell is that supposed to be for? What sane person says, you know what, I need this mess to defend myself? Nobody. And guess what the MSRP is on that rifle? Yeah, it's over $1,800. I can't make this up. At this point, I was kind of laughing at the guy as I was talking to him, and I asked, why is it so expensive? His response was, and I quote, well, it cost me a lot to make. You know what else would be expensive to make? A 24-karat gold-plated high point, but that doesn't make it a good idea. Listen, I love the idea behind this palm pistol. They want to help the elderly and disabled be able to defend themselves. But apparently they also want to rob them blind and give them a subpar handgun in the process. Maybe I'm being too harsh about this. I don't know. What do you guys think? Would you let your grandparents buy one of these things to defend themselves? Let me know down in the comments. And on hashtag Not a Review, the segment where I take a product and give you guys a hands-on spotlight, we're taking a closer look at the Strike 2 compensator for my friends at 556 Tactical, or as I like to call them, the Rockstar Gun Company. Seriously, they've done guns for some really cool musicians. The Strike 2 is kind of an evolution of their Striker and Strike Hide muzzle devices and combines the best of both. It's got 3 slanted side ports and 3 holes on the top to let gases out and try to keep the muzzle relatively neutral. Too often I see breaks that focus on shoving the muzzle down, and on a 556, that's overkill. These seem to have a nice balance. They also feature 4 prongs on the front end to mitigate flash. We've seen that concept before, and this seems to be a nicely styled version of exactly that. Now, the real question, do they work? Well, initial impressions mean everything, and we were able to step out into the frigid February weather here in Pennsylvania and shoot a few rounds through these things. First up, the 5.56. It's mounted on a basic PSA upper with an Anderson lower build that I threw together, and as you can see, it kind of works as advertised. The comment Nate and I kept making was, that thing was a soft shooter. It just felt that way. We also filmed it in slow-mo to check on the flash, and that was almost nothing, even with the NATO spec 5.56 ZQI ammo. Next up, we installed it on my Lancer L30 Heavy Metal to see how the 30 cal version fared with handling recoil. Simply put, it was just as good as the 5.56 version. The muzzle stayed neutral during both slow and rapid fire, and really with a muzzle brake, that's all I care about. Well, almost. The one thing that kind of perplexed me about this was the choice to make the flats bigger than what you would see on an A2 flash hider. That means you have to get an adjustable wrench or something besides your AR-15 Armorer's tool to install it. Is that a big deal? No, not really. It's just something to note. So the 5.56 Tactical Strike 2 in both 5.56 and 30 caliber. Should you buy one? Well, for the current price of $95, if you're looking to get a good muzzle device, I would put this right up there with the VG6 Epsilon and the 2A Armament T3 Comp, which are some of the best I've ever tested. It's definitely solid value for money here. To learn more about the Strike 2, be sure to click the link in the description to go over to 556tactical.com. This week's Friendly Fire question is from Sam Rice on the TGC Facebook page, and he asks, is it possible to build a SCAR 17 like you would an AR? That's a great question because with the huge amount of aftermarket support the SCAR is seeing, that'd be freaking incredible. But my understanding is that you can't buy the upper receiver in the aftermarket right now. So you're stuck paying a ton of money for the rifle and then taking parts off that you don't want or need, making the total cost really, really high. And maybe in the future this will change. Maybe FN will start selling uppers, or maybe somebody will release a gun that's way better than the SCAR and that won't matter anymore. I hope that helps, Sam. My friendly fire question to you guys this week, what is your favorite rifle for modifications and why? Maybe it's an AR or a SCAR, or maybe it's something else. Let me know down in the comments below, and if you want your question answered right here on TGC News, you can post that on facebook.com/theguncollective or post it on Instagram and Twitter using hashtag friendlyfire. Bring your EDC game to a new level with KeyBar, offered in tons of different finishes from aluminum to titanium to carbon fiber and tons of other fancy options. You can stack these with things like a titanium comb or a USB flash drive. The only limitation is your mind. Use the code TGC10 to get 10% off your entire order at keybar.us. Before we go, I need to say rest in peace to Justice Scalia and our Constitution. It's sad to see that man go. He was a great advocate for the actual rights of Americans. And unfortunately, that is the end of this week's show. Guys, you know what to do. If you enjoyed the episode, hit that like button and share it with your friends. If you didn't like it, let me know down in the comments so we can talk about it. Do not forget to subscribe. You won't want to miss a single week of the show. And as always, thank you all for watching. We'll see you soon. The shirts worn in today's episode of TGC News were provided by Barrett Apparel. Click the link in the description to learn more.